spend enough time facing disappointments, courage is what will keep you going. And so growing up with Jason, I learned about trust, and about love, and about courage. And as these lessons were being taught, Jason and I quickly learned that not everyone lived in Holland, and not everyone appreciated Jason for the lessons he had to teach. And so, as we grew up, we learned the value and security found in those who shared our same roots. For the past 10 to 15 years, my parents had made it a point to attend as many NDSC conferences as possible. The convention became an annual family trip, and our only real vacation every year. I still remember overhearing the phone call my mom made to the airlines the year they booked tickets with frequent flyer miles. I'd like to redeem the miles for 4 round-trip tickets to Pittsburgh. Yes, I understand that they could be used for anywhere in the country, including Hawaii. And yes, I understand I do live in New Jersey. But no, I would still like to take my family to Pittsburgh. We listened each year for the announcement of next year's conference, anxiously waiting for our next big destination. The first time I was old enough to visit the NDSC Brothers and Sisters Conference, I marveled at the fact that so many others shared my stories and experiences. I wasn't the only sibling who had to explain to their friends what it meant to have Down syndrome, and I wasn't the only sibling who hid by the bus stop to make sure that my brother didn't get bullied. This community knew me, and I knew them. A few years later, at the 2003 NDSC in Philadelphia, I met 2 teens who had taken additional steps towards this acceptance that I envisioned. The boys had started a group in their high school called PALS, offering socialization opportunities for students with and without disabilities. I agreed to bring the organization back to my own school and brought together over 100 students at our first meeting. A few months later, the 2 boys presented me with an idea. They had gotten a summer programming agency interested in sponsoring a camp for teens with Down syndrome, and they asked if I wanted to be involved. Recognizing that this was a program that Jason could immediately benefit from, I jumped on board, and we hosted our first ever Camp Pals in 2004 with 16 campers and 16 counselors. At the end of the week, campers, counselors, and parents shared their experiences. A few of our counselors were siblings that first year, and so we experienced camp through the same lens. We watched as these other teenagers volunteered their time to give our siblings the best week of their lives. And then we watched as these counselors, many of whom had never met anyone with Down syndrome before, thanked us and our parents for the experience. Something had clicked. In some way, we had managed to give these counselors the same opportunity to learn from the campers that I had growing up with Jason. We returned to the NDSC in 2004 that summer, and were honored to receive the President's Award for our work. This was an exciting moment of recognition, but it challenged us to do more. Through the next few years, as Jason and I grew, so did Camp House. 24 campers in 2005, then 33 in 2006. By 2009, we had 81 campers and 100 volunteer staff. Jason and I grew closer through this experience, building our skills and our relationship as our community expanded. I began to recognize the social opportunities Camp House provided for Jason, and I thought about simple things, like recreation programs, that Jason wasn't a part of back at home. So during the school year, I partnered with our local township, and we put together a year-long inclusive sports program. It was a success, and the department gave us permission to organize a day camp, 7 weeks in the afternoons during the summer, that worked as a supplementary option to extended school year. The school board hesitated at first, but when 40 high school students showed up at the school board meeting, ready to speak about the importance of this experience, they changed their mind. Meanwhile, Jason and I began getting more involved with things like Special Olympics. What was previously an opportunity for Jason to engage in sport while I volunteered or cheered him on became a new way to find community. A few years later, when I got to college, the campus felt empty. It was too easy to fall into the trap of self-absorption and disregard for the outside world. I missed Jason, and I missed the perspective he had always given me. So I decided to bring the benefits of perspective to Princeton and using the NDSC convention as a model, I organized the now annual Princeton Down Syndrome Awareness Conference, which welcomes about 500 individuals with Down syndrome and their families to campus every fall. With each new stage in life, it felt like Jason and I were being pulled farther and farther apart. And so I pushed harder to recreate the world that we had always shared. I started to learn it wasn't just siblings who I connected with, but others who had been touched, others who had taken the time to develop relationships with people like Jason. And so our community grew larger. Much of the new programming was linked to specific stages of our lives, and so it faded into the background as Jason and I got older. Yet for 8 years now, we have had Camp Pals as a constant, always relevant and always waiting in that third week of June, like a finish line at the end of each school year. As the years went on at Camp Pals and we continued to expand, I couldn't help but wonder what was bringing people back year after year. Why were college students leaving internships, flying across the country? Why were high school students missing finals? Why were young professionals using an entire week of vacation time? For me, Camp Pals felt like the only week I could breathe. The only week where I got to relive the pure joy of childhood, the carefree moments of spontaneous dance parties and endless karaoke battles. It was everything Jason and I had always enjoyed, just with other people. And so I began to understand the addiction. People were getting a glimpse of a world that they had only imagined. A world where the boundaries of judgment, the fear of exclusion, and the stress of fitting into some pre-designed mold were gone. Camp House was a place where people became something that they couldn't be anywhere else, where they could be themselves at a level that they never thought was possible. The relationships strengthened as the counselors and campers grew up over the years. We learned each other's stories, sharing unique pieces of ourselves as we submitted to an experience that we knew would change our lives with every summer. I remember the night Alex and I stayed up until 3 a.m. talking about the romantic relationships that we wished our brothers could have. Or the day Catherine shared with us why she felt so connected to camp. Before she was born, her parents had been told that she was going to have Down syndrome. And although the doctors were wrong, she still felt a connection to the community, so she came back as a counselor year after year. I remember the excitement I felt when Sam told me about his job at Wegmans and his dream to go to college. I wanted that so much for Jason, and Sam helped me to see these possibilities. And I remember the fire in Mike when he shared with me that while he had originally thought camp was simply a place for him and his brother to attend together, it had become something that challenged him, that made him want to do more during the rest of the year. After each week was over, our counselors returned to us, aching to know what was next. And so we sent them to the only other place we knew as home, the NDSC. We sent them to this community because this is where we started ours. We bring our counselors and campers back to this place year after year, to host exhibits, to lead sessions, or just to experience the event. Because we knew that after Camp House, there is nothing that feels closer to our world than the community at this convention. And through all these stories, the business of planning, and the whirlwind of now 113 campers and 150 volunteer staff members, the dust settles, and it's me and Jason, just like it was when my life started. I watched through the years as Jason experienced camp with new counselors, new teens, new friends. I watched him grow into a teenager and then into a young man, someone who I can talk to about relationships, about disappointments, and about the hopes and dreams I have for us. And as our lives have started to drift apart, it has been Jason's trust, Jason's love, and Jason's courage that has kept us together. Whether it's the text message I get in the morning that reads nothing but "I love you," or the excited greeting I get after returning home from Greece when Jason says, "Don't worry, Jen, I prayed that you would be safe." It is Jason who keeps me going. The bond between us is hard to describe, but became slightly clearer to me the other day. I was telling Jason about the presentations that we'd be doing at this conference, and I informed him that we'd be talking a lot about our relationship. "What types of things should we say?" I asked. Jason replied promptly, "Well, we will talk about how we both have Down syndrome."